coming tonight. So good to see you. Thanks for coming out. Please help yourselves to water bottles and snacks that we have on the back table. And tonight we have Dr. David Jeck will be speaking to us from Fauquier County Schools. He's our school superintendent, and we have Duke Land, who we're very fortunate to have as chairman of our school board this year. So he's here with us also. My name is Mary Wilkerson. I'm president of the Marshall Business and Residents Association, and I wanted to introduce our board members who are here tonight. If our board members could please stand for the audience so that you all know who to reach out to. Joe Sarsord, Mary Elizabeth Wilkerson, Connie Jones, and Bill Hines.
All right. That's why you all dress like
Very dedicated volunteers. So welcome to our meeting. Our mission statement is to protect and enhance the quality of community and professional life in Marshall. And we offer free to the community these monthly community meetings 10 times a year, and we try to have a couple of speakers, business, someone from the schools like Dr. Jeck tonight, topics of interest for people. And these are not debate formats, but some speakers may want to have question and answer. It's up to the speakers if they take questions and answers afterwards. And so that's up to them. So Dr. Jeck may take some. But we enjoy a positive focus, and we, as you know, our board's focus has recently been on stopping what we consider the harmful one block Main Street Improvement Project. And simply by having that position, we've gotten, it's been very difficult for some people to tolerate, so, but we hope that you can appreciate where we're coming from, because basically we were the original grant applicant, and we've studied this intensely for almost 2 years now. We met with the county and with Mary Lee a lot last summer, and our board had so many emergency board meetings time after time because they wanted our input on things. And then September 11th of 2018 is when we, after having gone through all this and extensive meetings and everything with them, our board had decided that we could not support the Main Street Improvement Project. And so September of 2018 is when we announced that we didn't. So, but we certainly appreciate your opinion if you have a different opinion, but our precious time that we have tonight will be used to support those people who have felt that they've had no voice on opposing the project, and to give them an update and direction to go for best to cancel the project. So, okay, so what we're going to do tonight, first we're going to have Dr. Jeck speak to us. In between Dr. Jeck and the sidewalk project, we'll do our door prize drawing, just to have a little fun in between. And then, so we'll start talking about the sidewalk project probably about 8:10. So Dr. Jeck, if you wanted to take question and answers, it's up to you. And do whatever you like.
He's going to present, to talk about the budget.
Okay.
Because we're in the midst of working with the board of supervisors about the budget. And of course, I'm sure some folks will have some questions about the coronavirus and what we're doing in school. Also, we've already had people starting to ask, since we didn't have a lot of snow days this year, yes, are we going to get out early and all of those things? So
right.
He'll be able to address a number of things that I would have talked about tonight.
Okay, all right, good. So then, we will, without further ado, we'll ask Dr. Jeck to come up. Welcome our school superintendent. Thank you.
I sure hope I don't need a microphone. I had a student advisory meeting today at one of the high schools, and it's about every other month I meet with student groups. And of course they wanted to know about coronavirus and what we were doing, and were we going to shut schools down, and would it make sense to shut schools down since we didn't have any snow days this year, and were we going to get out of school early? and on and on and on. So here's my pat answer to the questions about coronavirus. The pat answer is, we do what the CDC and the Virginia Department of Health tell us to do. That's pretty much it.
Right.
We're relying
I work
on
for the health department one, I know
There you
exactly
go.
what you're talking about.
Thank you. And we're relying on science, which doesn't necessarily sit well with people all the time, but that's what we're doing. We're
But what we
relying,
did, well, during election day when all the schools were closed,
We did.
We did the deep clean.
we did do a deep clean on election day, which is great. But then after we did the deep clean, we also learned that, well, you know, the virus, if it hits this tabletop, it lasts for a few hours, and then it dies. So while it was great to do the deep clean, there weren't kids in school that day anyway on election day. So it was a good opportunity to clean the building, but the danger in the coronavirus, of course, is people in contact with other people. And so we're monitoring. We're going to wait and see what happens. We'll do whatever we feel is best. I know that Fairfax made an announcement today about creating a holiday, I think on March 16th. They're going to close schools down completely. We're not there yet. We're not in that situation, but we're certainly monitoring. And if we have to do that, we certainly will. There's no danger in doing that. It's only a positive thing if you feel like you have to shut down in order to kill the viruses within the buildings or let kids heal. But we're not there yet. But we're monitoring. But we'll take the advice of the Department of Health and of the CDC. That's basically where we are. But we get that question a lot right now, and understandably so. But I will say this: my wife was online last night looking at cruises. I was telling you earlier, the cruises are 80% off. So there were 7-day cruises for $350.
Travel to Europe is pretty.
I said, let's go on a cruise. Perfect.
I cannot believe that people from the first cruise, they said how many people were diagnosed, and there are people still getting on the ships, going on cruises. It doesn't make sense.
I may do it, I'm telling you. I need a cruise.
Please don't, we want you around, don't do it.
Sorry, I need to get away for a few days.
Well, it's a great deal for people who've already had it, right?
True.
It's
True. So just a few comments about the budget. This is my 12th year as superintendent in the state of Virginia, 7th year in Fauquier County. And that actually makes me, as 12 years, that makes me one of the senior fellows. There's only a few of us. The superintendents usually only last about 3 years. Yeah, I know. And so I've got 12 in, and that makes me one of the senior fellows among superintendents in Virginia. But I can tell you that after 12 years, as far as budget is concerned, this is the best year we've had in terms of additional state revenues forecasted, what the county administrator has recommended for schools. Even though it's not what we requested, it's still manageable. And just in terms of the relationships between board to board, I've always had a very good relationship with the county board administrator. Paul McCauley's a good guy, very good man, but we've had our disagreements. This year is very different. It's been very positive. We feel like, and just to give you a sense of how the school board budgeting process works, we start in about mid-November. We have a retreat with the school board. The school board gives us their budget goals. They sort of tell us what their goals are relative to budget. And typically they fall around safety and security within buildings and compensation for employees, workforce, supporting our workforce. Okay, that's usually where it falls, in one of those two categories. So we take that information, we gather budget requests from supervisors, directors, assistant superintendents, and principals. And then we decide those requests must fit in one of those two categories. And if they don't, they're not considered. We take that information, I formulate a budget, I present it to the school board. The school board approved the budget last night. There's really no, most of the budget request in terms of additional dollars is related to compensation. We've got to do everything we can do with teachers to remain competitive with Prince William, Fairfax, Loudoun, et cetera. Because they've come out of the gate, they're very aggressive. Prince William is recommending a 5% pay increase for teachers. Loudoun is recommending 120%. It's not a percentage, but they want to be at 120% of the market, of their local market, which is probably a little bit north of 5% for teachers. So it's very aggressive. So we've got to try to keep up, basically. We're already behind significantly with those school divisions. We've got to try to keep up. So what I recommended in my budget was a 3% pay increase for teachers. There was some discussion last night about perhaps doing more for teachers in the next budget. We're hoping that will come to pass, that we'll be able to do more, maybe something closer to 4% for teachers, but we don't know at this point. We've got to try to keep up. And the fact is, and sometimes teachers don't like to hear this, nor do administrators or classified folks, we're never going to get to 100% of market. We're never going to be Prince William or Loudoun. We're just not going to do it. It's too doggone expensive. Just to get to, last year we did some work with how do we compete with Prince William County teachers? How do we do it? How much does it cost? To get to 95% of the teacher pay scale in Prince William, I think it was going to cost us about $7 million. So it's just not conceivable that we're ever going to be able to do that. However, we got to try to at least keep up. We have to try to at least keep and not lose ground, because we offer other things in Fauquier County that are very positive. We have much lower class sizes. We have much smaller schools. I think we're a lot less bureaucratic than some of the larger school divisions. My wife's a principal in Prince William County, and some of the stories she tells are unbelievable as far as the things they're required to do. We try to stay away from that, give autonomy to the schools, give autonomy to teachers, keep their class sizes down, keep the school sizes down, and that's attractive to a lot of teachers. That is attractive to a lot of administrators. They prefer to work in that environment than having 30 kids in their classroom with no aid and a very large elementary, middle, or high school. So that's sort of what we have to offer. But we're never going to be them. We're never going to be loud. We're never going to be Prince William. We're just not going to. It's just too expensive, and we don't want that anyway.
No, that's right.
Right. So and that's cool, because what we found, as Duke will attest to, we lose teachers to Prince William, Loudoun, and they end up coming back to us. Because they like the small schools, and they like the small class sizes, and they like not having a big brother breathing down their neck all the time. So my budget this year, the majority of the grand total request is $155,680,000. That's the grand total request. That's a 5.1% increase over where we were last year. The majority of that increase comes from state revenues. The state budget was actually very good this year. We received more money this year from the state than I think we ever have since I've been superintendent. Part of the reason for that is our local composite index actually went down. And if you're not familiar with local composite index, I'm going to do a quick poll here. Anyone familiar with local composite index and what it means? Bill, Bob, thank you.
Yeah. Bob knows all
Bob
about
knows.
Yeah.
So local composite index works like this. The state looks at all 132 school divisions, and they determine the general wealth of that school division in terms of incomes of the folks who live there, property values, new business, how many people live within the community, is it going up or going down. They gather that information, and then they apply a formula, and then they determine how much state funding you'll receive. Okay? And it's the state formula versus local funding. They determine how much funding will come from the state, and whatever's left has to be made up by the locality. All right? what typically happens in Fauquier County, since I've been here anyway, and probably before me, is our composite index typically goes up because the value of our property, the income, etc., typically increases. That means our composite index increases, which means, simply put, we receive less state funding. Okay, and when we receive less state funding, that means the county is supposed to provide additional funding to compensate for that loss in state funding. All right. This year, for the first time in I don't know how long, our composite index went down, which means we receive more state funding than we typically have. That's good news. Okay, that's really good news for the school division and for the county. And it also says that the state as a whole is probably doing extremely well economically because our property values continue to go up, our incomes continue to go up, etc. But our index went down, which means the state as a whole is doing really well. So all that to say, we received more state funding than we had anticipated. That's great news. Most of that additional state funding we plugged into compensation, primarily for teachers, additional compensation. So we're in a place now where we can meet our budget goals. And we've never really been there before. Typically we've been in a place where in order to meet our budget goals, we've had to cut our base budget, cut positions, cut maintenance, etc., in order to meet the budget goals. But this year we haven't had to do that, and that's great news. So I'm feeling very good about the budget situation. And again, I became superintendent 12 years ago in Greene County, which is a very poor county, just north of Charlottesville. And I became superintendent right when the recession hit. And so every year it's been a real struggle. This is the first year in 12 years where I feel like, hey, you know what? We're going to be able to do some good stuff. And we're not going to have to cut our existing budget. And we're not going to have to crawl to the county and beg for more additional funding. We will do that, but it's going to be much less begging and more just kind of negotiating. But we've never been there. And I feel great. I'm sleeping much better at night. There's not as much negativity. There's not as much hemming and hawing between boards. It's been much more positive, and we feel like we're going to be able to make progress. We're still going to be able to add money to maintenance, and because the fact of the matter is we have a lot of old buildings in Fauquier County. It's taken us how many years to maybe not even build a new middle school, but do some additions to some middle schools, right? It's taken about, I don't know, 13, 14 years to get there. Okay. We're not going to be building any new buildings anytime soon. What we've got to do is take care of the buildings we have. So we've had to add to our maintenance line so we're able to provide preventative maintenance within our buildings, keep them where they need to be so they're safe buildings. We entered into an ESCO project, which stands for, it's an energy savings company. We entered into an agreement with them. That saves us around $11.5 million. Essentially what that means is we take buildings that are inefficient, we make them more efficient with lighting, heating and air, etc. We take that savings and we pay for the work that was done to make the buildings more efficient. Okay? And it doesn't cost the county anything. It's about $11.5 million. So it was a really good move on the part of the county. It saves us some money, improves our buildings, makes them more efficient, and that's what we have to do, because we're not going to be building more buildings. We're just not, unless we have this sudden major influx of people, which we have not seen in the last decade. Our enrollment has been relatively flat for the last 10 years or so. We project that it's going to be flat for the next 10 years out. So when you see rooftops coming up and your gut instinct is to think, oh my God, that's a ton of more students, it really isn't, because we have a lot of buildings in the central part of the county whose kids have graduated from high school and they're empty nesters and they don't have kids going to school. So actually, our enrollment's been pretty flat and will continue to be flat for at least the next 10 years or so, relatively flat. So we don't see the need for building new schools. We see a need for maintaining the schools that we have, because we have a lot of old schools. Some right here in the Marshall area. Okay, Coleman, Marshall Middle, Thompson, etc. So those are the big ticket issues, mostly relative to compensation. We're in a market that is, it's tilted towards Fairfax, Prince William, Loudoun, et cetera. We can't compete against them really. We just need to keep up with them. One of our major concerns is what I just mentioned. Let's make sure we take care of our buildings, make sure they're efficient. Let's make sure that they're safe. Lastly, I will mention vestibules. When I was a teacher 25 years ago, wow, that's hard to believe. My last year teacher was 96, so 24 years ago. You didn't think about school shootings. You didn't think about people coming into your building wanting to do harm. You didn't think of it. And so when schools were designed, they weren't designed with that thought either. Okay, they weren't designed with the thought that you got to contain people in certain locations so they don't come in and do harm. You just didn't do it. And if you've been into most of our schools anytime recently, you'll see what I'm talking about. If you walk into Coleman or Marshall, you walk in, you can go anywhere in the building you want. Okay? Same with Taylor, same with Warrenton Middle School, a lot of our other schools. You walk in, Liberty, the best example. You can walk in, you can go anywhere, because that's how the schools were designed. They weren't designed with the idea that someone might be coming in to shoot students. Now we're into a very expensive process or project relative to creating these artificial vestibules where if you walk into Coleman, you'll be confined to a specific area that could potentially be locked if you're there to do harm. Okay? And it's a retrofitted system, but Coleman is like 5 or 6 other elementaries. They all were built with the same plan in mind. They all look exactly alike. It's expensive, but it's what we need to do. And we're starting that process at Mary Walter. I think there's 1 or 2 others in the queue, maybe Smith, Coleman, Bradley. They're all kind of the same. But we've got to be able to contain people as they walk into our buildings. And it's not cheap to do that. So that's also contained in our budget proposal, is that we have funds to do those capital kind of projects to make sure when people come in, we can contain them if we need to contain them. Liberty is the biggest challenge. You walk into Liberty, it is wide open. And you can go anywhere in that building before you get anywhere close to the front office. Which is also, this is a little bit of a soapbox thing, it's, you need to be able to contain people with walls and not other people, because they're not carrying weapons. Okay? Someone sitting at a desk, a secretary, a tenant secretary, they're not armed. So we need to be able to contain folks within walls, within doors that are lockable. We shouldn't be asking people, secretaries, et cetera, to be the front line of defense of someone who comes in wanting to do harm. That's not right.
Don't pay them enough.
Right, we don't pay them nearly enough. Now we have we have at least an SSO or an SRO in every single one of our buildings. In our high schools, we have both. We have an SSO and an SRO. But again, that's one person. So you'll be seeing that in years to come as a major expense that we're going to have to pay for, is to change the way we treat people as they walk into our buildings. If you've ever been to Warrenton Middle School, anyone ever been to Warrenton Middle School and had to walk in? You can walk in that door and go anywhere, and you won't even be seen. You'll be seen by the person buzzing you in, but that person doesn't have the power to stop you. They just have the power to take a look at you, ask you why you're there, buzz you in, and then you can literally go wherever you want. So that again is something that is forthcoming. So those are the big ticket pieces within my proposed budget. The school board approved the overall budget last night. It does include some additional positions, but the majority of those positions are compliance related. We have a lot more autistic students. We have more students of poverty in some of our schools. And there are state guidelines associated with when you have 50% or more students of poverty in a building, you have to provide a social worker. If you have more than X number of students who are non-English speakers, you need to provide an ELL teacher. If you have X number of students who are autistic or some other special ed related capacity, you got to provide a teacher for them. Those are typically federal regulations. You got to add those positions. So that's the vast majority of the additional positions we've added. The additional positions we've added is not based on enrollment, it's based on enrollments of certain categories of students. The autism and autistic population of students in our school division and in Virginia and in the United States is exploding.
Well, the diagnosis is exploding. We've
True.
always been there.
Excellent point, thank you. They were just categorized differently, right?
Yeah.
Now they're identified as autistic students, and there are requirements. You have to have a certain number of staff members to teach those students, but you're exactly right. In years past, they were categorized some other way, but now they're diagnosed as autism students. And we're like everyone else. That diagnosis continues to explode, and we have to provide personnel to work with those kids. So that was a lot of me talking, and I did have a handout for you, but I grabbed the wrong paper clip that had my presentation in it, not the handouts that my secretary put together for me, who's awesome, by the way. So I'll stop. You all have any questions or anything I can help explain, add some volume to? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I have one that you were saying, you go into the schools and the woman buzzes you in, and you don't know where they go. You don't have cameras?
We do, but cameras aren't going to stop anyone.
No, I know, but at
yeah.
least you have an idea where they're going and
Yeah.
if they're pulling out a weapon or.
Yeah, good point. All of our schools are equipped with cameras, and we add cameras every year additionally. And so we're able to track them, and we buzz them in. When you buzz in at a school, there's a camera right there, so the secretary who's buzzing you can see you, and typically we'll recognize you as a parent, whatever. We'll ask, "What are you here for?" "Oh, here to pick up Susie." "Okay, great, come on in." But again, the cameras won't stop anyone if they want to go in either direction. And we also have the Raptor system. So anytime you go into a building, if it's your first time in the building, they're going to take your ID and they're going to scan it. And if you pop up on the, it's a list, crimes against children, warehouse system, whatever, your name will pop up. And that's actually, unfortunately, that happens regularly, not regularly. It happens every year a few times, maybe half a dozen times, where someone will pop up as crimes against children, individuals coming into school for the first time, and we end up having to deal with those folks. Yes?
Is there a prioritization of those, for example, Liberty? Is there a have you all prioritized who needs to be the vestibule idea addressed?
Liberty's a tough one. Liberty is going to require a wholesale reorganization, redesign of that entryway. And it will be, but we have to do it. And it will be very expensive. Those elementary schools I mentioned, they're easier, I'm going to put that in quotation marks. None of this is easy, but they're easier because they're all the same. So they can design one, thing to deal with the problem, and it'll apply to Smith, Coleman, Bradley, Mary Walter, and I know I'm missing a couple. It'll apply to all those simple. Liberty, different animal. We'll have to redesign. We're in the process of that now. We'll have to redesign the whole thing. It's completely different animal.
Yes, because it's multi-story when you walk in, and you've got,
You walk in, there's stairwells.
you got stairwells on each side and everything.
But again, it was designed during a time where we weren't thinking about it. No one was thinking about this. But we're thinking about it now. Yes, sir.
Well, speaking of school design, about a dozen years ago, we redesigned Fauquier High School, went through a major renovation. There was a lot of controversy at the time. How's that working out?
With like safety and security?
Well, just sort of in
General?
general. Is it a good school or is it a disaster.
I think it's great.
Okay.
Personally,
Yeah.
I think the entryway design is perfect. You come in the front door, you buzz in that first door.
Yeah.
You have to go directly to the office.
Yep.
And typically there is the SRO, SSO is somewhere within the vicinity. That's a perfect design.
Yeah.
Here's what I heard when I came to Fauquier County, because they had just opened, if you remember,
Right,
7
yeah.
years ago. The big thing was 4 stories, 'cause that front building is 4 stories, and there was no center rail. Do you remember this? There was no center rail on the steps.
Yep.
Okay, so there's these big staircases going up. There's no center rail. People were going crazy. Oh my God, these kids are gonna. I don't know. I think kids will be fine. Oh no, there'll be kids falling down and it'll be bedlam. I don't think so. I think the kids will be okay. No problems there. The biggest problem is if you're going from the annex to 4th floor English, yeah, it's gonna take you a while to get there.
But they also went through all of the new geothermal power
Oh,
plant.
that's working out beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the geothermal part is saving us a lot of money.
and the alternative lighting systems.
Very good. And then the Cube, which is the 1979 building, we just did with part of the ESCO project was to bring in new heating and air into that part of the building, and that's been beautiful. That old building it's old, but it's very efficient now. It's got the new lighting, new heating and air. It's a really good system. So I wasn't here when that whole design,
Yeah.
all that was done, but I can tell you the end product is,
We did something right.
it's something right. Yeah, it seems to be working really well. Kids don't complain too much. Kids complain if they have to go from the annex to the 4th floor.
Well, they get out of that exercise going up and down the
Yeah,
stairs.
which for us would be tough, but for them it's like, no problem.
Well, that, and there's a lot of nooks and crannies though.
There are.
Yeah.
Lots of
And
nooks and
actually,
crannies.
I will point out that one of our school board members pointed out one of the nooks and crannies for me the other day when he was in high school at Fauquier High School. He said, this spot right here, no one knew we were here. I'll tell you a good piece of advice I got as a new principal many years ago. When it comes to nooks and crannies, there was an assistant superintendent, he looked at me and he said, you gotta make private places public places. As a school administrator, as a school principal and assistant principal, make private places public places. That was some of the best piece of advice I ever got. Because you do that and kids figure it out pretty quick that, yeah, there's gonna be somebody here and I need to get lost, so. Great observation.
How do you do that? How do you make
Walk,
it?
I tell you, I used to do as principal, walk right in the middle of them. Walk right in the middle of them. How's everybody doing today? It's great to see you. Get to class. It's like the phones back in the day when we had one payphone. Remember those days? One payphone. I had an on and off switch in my high school. And as soon as the charter bell rang, one of us would go and flip the switch off. So kids on the phone would go dead, go to class. So make those private places. You gotta take the bull by the horns and be very assertive, but that's what it takes.
And we've been very fortunate enough to have the money in our budget to buy new cameras, update existing software in some of our older cameras, and also the grant monies that we've gotten from the state. So we have cameras just about everywhere, inside, outside, on the rooftops, watching, the fields and all of that kind of stuff. So we've been very fortunate.
We have, and I can actually pull up the camera from any school right now in real time, anywhere I want. Now, it's be hard for me to find the exact camera, but I can go to any school, pull up the camera, and look what's going on in that building. It's called the Avalon system. Very effective, but we add cameras every year.
I heard one teacher comment that what she told a couple of her students in elementary school was that, now, are you gonna tell me what happened, or? It's the camera, and she knew that the camera was covering it, but they didn't know there was no camera covering it.
Yeah.
So it worked effectively.
Yes, ma'am.
The problem is, and will always be, the bathrooms, because they know no cameras will ever be mounted
Right.
there. And that is where I get a lot of feedback from kids right now, that there's a lot going on, particularly in Fauquier High School bathrooms.
Sure.
is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it was the same when we were in high school. I will tell you
Yeah.
that the purple passes at Fauquier High School made a big difference, though. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but kids you must be carrying a purple pass, and the kids thought it was my idea. Like, why do we have the other? I said, that was announced Mr. Calican. I don't do anything with the purple passes, but they've got to carry the purple pass. But I'll tell you a great story, and I'll wrap this up. When I was a principal in Louisa, the Pepsi guy left one of the machines open. He just left it ajar. He didn't lock it all the way. And kids were there all morning stealing sodas in our machine. And we brought this one kid in, and he was stealing. You had to see it because the camera was right on the machine. He was stealing. He was pulling the sodas out like this, and he was going back and forth, and he was putting them in his coat. And he went like this, and he came like this, and he looked at the camera, and then he did this. And the kid said, and I quote, "That wasn't me." I'm like, that was you. You were in the same clothes. It had to be you. So, any other questions, or I've gone over my time, a lot of time. And I have to run, I apologize. My son, the chef, is making us dinner tonight, and so it's very exciting. This is night off. Very excited about that. So I'm gonna go and enjoy that while you're here.
But Dave, before you go, you talk about the businesses in Marshall and everything. This gentleman now has some space at the, what is it, the
Marshall Mercantile.
Marshall Mercantile. So if anybody's interested in, he does a lot of artwork with all kinds of old barn wood and things of that nature. He has a bunch of that stuff in there to sell now. So if you're ever in the old Mercantile place down there, go by and look at his station.
Wow, thanks for the plug. That's fun. It's a stress reliever.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you very much, Dr. Jeck. We really appreciate that update. Alrighty, so now we wanted to talk about an update on the Marshall Main Street Improvement Project. And just to give a good, well, I guess we need to do this. Rather than organize first.
While she's doing that, I'd like to just say one thing.
Yeah.
On the 12th, the U.S. Census forms will start arriving in the mail, folks. And it's very, very important that you, complete those forms, whether you're doing it on paper, whether you're doing it online. What all of that means is it's the allocation of funding. Depending on how many people live in a certain area, it dictates how much money you get for schools and education, healthcare services, public housing, and all of that. So it's extremely important when you receive the U.S. Census forms in the mail to complete those and get them in. That's all I want to say about that.
And I worked the census in 2010, and if you don't mail it on, we will be laying on the door.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, we have 3 prizes of various types. We have this bag, floral bag, and we have Joe Sarsour donated this mobile power bank.
It's so awesome.
Oh.
It's for people that can't sit with their phones, yeah.
And it's nice.
It's people that have a disease that can't sit with their phones, have to have it in their hands all the time.
Or they have children that
Yeah.
And what is this, Joe?
That is the coolest thing you can ever get. That's gonna be a wallet that you can put like all your cards and stuff in there. And it's
And
so
it's
awesome.
waterproof, it's impact resistant, right?
Yeah.
Does it protect them from being scanned or something?
Yes, that's what it does. It protects me scan, but not the waterproof and crash proof stuff.
Okay.
Maybe like logo, like a mist or something.
Okay, so we have 3 gifts,
Yeah, it's one.
and Bill, would you like to make the first drawing, and then you can pick whichever one you want.
Oh, we have all that.
So,
We have all that.
This is for Duke.
Can't go wrong with that. You can't give that away.
Number 30.
30?
3-0. 3-0.
Are you serious?
That would be.
So whichever prize you want, you can pick out phone charger, wallet, or
Bag, go to
Well,
bed.
since I have
It's
an
back.
old flip phone, I'm pretty sure those things are.
Oh, it works there.
does it work?
I think so. What kind of chart, and do
It's
not.
an old flip phone
Oh, it works
that
awesome. You
everybody
can't go
makes
wrong.
fun of me, so I
And it probably
don't even know what
doesn't
those
keep
things
charge.
are.
So
It's got a micro USB adapter, you'll plug in that.
that's like when you're texting all the time, you can't go wrong.
You can't text on your phone.
Actually, I
Oh,
can.
she does. Awesome.
It fits in your
I tell
pocket,
people you
so
can't
I'm
text.
not- Exactly, so I don't know what that is, that's a charger that I probably don't need, right?
Whichever one you want to.
The
In
wallet
the
one's the
bag.
best way to go.
The bag.
Well, it's a purse.
The wallet.
It's a wallet?
It's a, no, it's a purse. Go either way.
Okay, here we go,
Alright, number coming out is a 43.
43.
You're down to 2.
Well, you missed the bag.
Whichever one you think you need the most.
What kind of phone do
She
you
can
have?
take the previous lady from the Okay, y'all need to.
Oh, that's
There
perfect.
you go, perfect.
You'll never need a torch again.
There you go.
Duke, zip it, Duke.
I need your
Zip.
advice, I don't know about that person.
You're good,
Thank you,
you're good.
thank you.
Alright, this is the last chance you get, Connie.
Okay, and now for the card wallet.
Blank, it is 32.
And there's a pecan pie inside.
Alrighty, so, now I'd like to have our secretary, Mary Elizabeth, come up and give a synopsis of the Marshall Main Street project and some of the reasons why we feel the way we do about it. So,
I didn't give 2 pounds copy.
No, maybe that'll be next time. We have that pretty frequently, don't we? There's been some confusing information that has appeared in different newspapers and things, and just to kind of going off of the, getting a beat off the people that we're talking to and what they're thinking. Some misconceptions or some reasons that have been put out over the years for why we need this project. We've found in the last couple of years especially that those aren't really necessary reasons at all. So one of them is a big thing is ADA compliance. We walk with VDOT on Main Street and learned that our sidewalks width is currently ADA compliant. It is actually 5 feet right now. And so they explained there's some ground creep that happens in some of those, but you can just do edging to clear that up. So we already have ADA compliant with sidewalks. And then also, currently, the sidewalks are VDOT's responsibility to maintain. So the reason they haven't maintained and repaired within this one block scope is because this project has been pending for years. If we were to cancel it, at no cost to us, just as part of VDOT's regular maintenance and what our taxpayer dollars go to, they would fix the sidewalks that are sunken, that puddle sometimes when it rains, anything that's a ½ inch or greater, they're actually required by law to make ADA compliant, to make level as part of ADA compliance. In addition, the ramps at the sidewalks that don't have bubble strips, that's something that they're required to bring up to code when they do the repaving. So that's kind of, we've kind of been told that we need this project for ADA compliance, and we've learned that that's not true. We've learned that, we've kind of been told that we need this project because people have worked on it for so long and spent so many hours on it, but it's a project that is harmful. The major tenets of this project, every aspect of it is harmful to the community, and it's not wise to just keep digging a hole because of all the time you've spent digging. The respectable, wise thing to do is to let that go. Another reason is for safety. So some people think that maybe we need this project for safety, but the reality is this project would narrow Main Street by 2 feet. That's something that we have on record verified from VDOT. Contrary to some things that you might have seen out there, it is a total of 2 feet that it would narrow it by. And that's a huge safety hazard because not only is it just dangerous for all vehicles, but it's our fire and rescue vehicles, our farming, members of our farming community, our equestrian community, our lawn care, vehicles, and also school buses. There are people, for example, Middleburg had a similar project done, And a gentleman who works in Loudoun County in transportation said that there are streets that they just cannot go on anymore. They can't make the turns in the school buses because of that. So there's really another reason. If you read the original grant applications for this project, this was back in 2008. So Main Street was very different in 2008 than it is now, or even 5 years ago. And they kind of painted a picture of a dead and dying Main Street that needed breath of life breathed into it via this project, which of course didn't have all these details out at the time. Well, Main Street's pretty bustling. There are some really great businesses on there, long-term businesses, small businesses, and we certainly don't need this project to make Main Street economically viable. It already is. Some interesting information that we learned just about a week and a half ago from Miles Friedman, who's Fauquier County's Director of Economic Development, is that while the general reason for this project is that it would be of an economic benefit to Marshall, the county does not actually have any proof or studies or data to show how it would benefit Marshall or how much money it would bring into it. So
No more.
yeah, it's ultimately a revenue draining project. It's not a revenue generating project. And if this project happens, then it becomes Fauquier County's responsibility to maintain the sidewalks. So not only is that an extra cost and an unnecessary burden when there's so many other needs with the budget, with schools. I mean, why would we add something that is already VDOT's responsibility? Plus, the sidewalks would include a strip of brick. They would include trees, which need water, maintenance, all of that. It's not a wise business move. There's no evidence that it would benefit. There's actually not even evidence of widespread community support at any time. I mean, certainly there were people who heard that this would be this great project and we'd get kind of free grant money for it, but
And everybody thought that the utilities were gonna go underground, and I remember that got talked about before and stuff.
right. And if you look at some of the original grant applications, the undergrounding was never to go all of Main Street. And that's a huge misconception that a lot of people are very unhappy about, that they were led to believe that it would be for all of Main Street, and it never was. It was to be for one block. So, the question is why should the county proceed with a project the community doesn't want, that taxes a whole bunch of people for one little block? It's not what it started out to be, and there's no aspect to it that's beneficial. The rock is one of the biggest reasons. I mean, even, you separate all the other reasons, the sheer downtime that the businesses would have to go through, not only the access to their businesses that are hindered if they're directly within the scope, but whenever there's a project like this, any town you look at, businesses go out, both in the project area and outside of the scope. And so it's just, plus the dust, the construction, all of that. We love our precious.
Vibration damage if they had co-rams and other.
Yes, we attended the pre-bid meeting on November 6th of last year, as well as the bid opening meeting on December 3rd. And one of the contractors at the pre-bid meeting said, your county documents for the bid state that we can use HO-RAMs for the rock removal. How is that going to work? How are we not going to damage the foundation of some of these historic buildings that are here on Main Street? Because it's right there. They're tearing up the sidewalks. And everybody knows, as Ben Shoemaker, the director of WSA, who's spoken twice in the meetings, has said, and everybody knows, Marshall sits on a bed of rock. So it's just a completely impractical idea to.
I'll vouch for it. I'm with the health department. I know what it's on.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Where can you go? What site can you go on and read all these documents and everything that you're talking about that would be, to me, the factual part of understanding what's going on and where it's supposed to be going, and has it truly been voted on, or has it been voted on a long time ago? And this is, we need to be, I know.
It's like 15.
Where can we find the facts that you're reading?
Yes, so the grant applications, you can ask the county, that's HOA.them. The county houses the grant applications, you can ask them to send them to you. I've read all of them, most of them are like 40 pages each, so it's very tedious, but you can get those from the county. on our website, marshallva.org, we link to a bunch of different helpful links. We link to the county's webpage about this project, which has the design plans, as well as the design plans that they've released, which, you know, you might hear people say, this project has been around for 10 years. It really hasn't, because we met with Mary Lee McDaniel back in August of 2018, asked to see some design plans. That was after we found out wouldn't be undergrounding, and there's a drop dead date of November 2018 that has to go to bid. And she explained over and over again, there are no plans, there's nothing to see. The engineering team is, you know, reworking everything without undergrounding. So, well, is there something we can see? Well, no, there's nothing to see, but she directed us to the Marshall Service District Comp Plan chapter for the closest thing. So the project that we're talking about today was first released to the public at our September 11th, 2018 meeting is when they presented it, and they emailed us those plans August 29th. So
2018.
Of 2018, yes. So it's, of course, the generalities of improving the Main Street, sure, who would be opposed to that, but all these details didn't actually come out until 2018.
So speaking to her point directly,
yes,
is there still an opportunity to squash this entire project?
Yes.
Or because some of the papers are leading people to believe that it is already a done deal and we won't be heard, or there is nothing that we can do about it?
That's a myth. You absolutely have the right and the power, your citizens, your taxpayers. You have the right and the power to ask the Board of Supervisors to cancel the project immediately. That's been probably the single most demoralizing falsehood that's been out in our community for years, is that it's a done deal and there's nothing you can do to stop it. But we received confirmation from then Chairman Chris Butler at the end of last year that it's not a done deal, which means it never has been, unless and until the contracts are awarded. So right now, the way in the step of the process that everything's gone, there's only one last step, and that's for them when they rebid it to send out to award the contracts once the bids come in. Now, it's very expensive reworking these projects and spending taxpayer dollars on the staff hours that it takes to look at this and to rebid it. And so, especially during this budget season, it's pivotal that everybody from Marshall come out this Thursday, March 12th at 6:30, the Warren Green Building, 10 Hotel Street, Warrenton, and speak during citizens' time, since this isn't on the agenda as far as I know, and ask the supervisors to cancel this project now and not spend any more tax dollars on it, taxpayer dollars. Yes.
The one thing that I would point out to everybody here, when you go, you don't have to stay the whole time. You're not going to be there for 2 or 3 hours. The citizens' time is done first. You can make your comments. If you do nothing but stand and say, I oppose this project, please cancel it, and leave. The agenda is then, you know, they go on with it. You do not have to stay. I didn't go to some of those meetings thinking I was going to sit there for hours. Then I went and saw that I could stand, and I did. So we need to do it again this Thursday.
Yes.
We need to be there in mass.
And also, I might add that wearing these will identify that we are against this project.
And Mary Elizabeth, or you or your mom, if you want to turn around to those people who may not want to stand up and say something, turn around and say, everybody here that's in opposition to this project, can you stand?
Right.
Great idea. In case they don't have their.
Because there are some people who don't want to get up there and talk.
Right. And I think, sure, I think that it is, to your point, it is so important. Another reason why it's so important that everyone from Marshall come out is so that we can let the supervisors know what the Marshall community wants. Because a number of these supervisors weren't on the board when all this started. So they come in thinking, oh, this has been around forever, everybody wants it. And
well, the article in the paper said the majority of people are in favor of it, and that's not the case when you talk to people.
If you look at the minutes for when they voted to approve the tax increase, for example, on Valentine's night 7 years ago, a number of the people who spoke in support that meeting and the meeting before were outside the Marshall Service District. So, and we have yet to find anyone in the lighting tax district who says, yeah, I consent or I consented to that tax. And, you know, I've done a FOIA with the county, I've read all the documents, all of the county minutes, and there's just never been any evidence of widespread support for it.
And also, just first, I've been in communication with the Fauquier Times editor about that. She basically shut us out of any response to the last 2 negative things. She blacked us out. And I told her that was very damaging to us strategically. She feels she was fair in that because she said she'd put us out there before, but I said coming up to the March 12th meeting, this was a very damaging blow because we weren't able to respond to those facts. Yes, the paper put in things that were facts. Yes, it's true that the funds have been appropriated. The funds have been appropriated for a long time, and they can move funds anywhere they want. They can,
Yeah, we
you know,
couldn't use them for anything else because we have so much.
they
money.
do it all the time. So that we really didn't like that they didn't let us respond
It was
to
the
that.
reporter that was here at this meeting last
Right,
week, and
yes.
he's the one that wrote those misconceptions.
Well, he quoted Mary Lee, and that's accurate. That is accurate, but it leads people to believe it's saying it's a done deal in another
Yes.
way without
Yes.
giving our organization any, and they denied us again this week from any kind of coverage with this. The other thing they said was that 3 of the 4 voting supervisors have no plans to cancel the project. Yeah, we knew that. We've met with each of them a couple of times. That's where we come in. This is the representative form of government. So if you have to, whatever you have to do to get every single person out there this Thursday is so important. Now, I think it could be in an effort to dilute us and to make it difficult for anti-project people to speak. Now we understand there's someone is organizing a 2A rally there. I mean, 2A is out of the picture for right now. There's no urgency that we can see, but unfortunately, some have said that it could be just to dilute our impact. I don't know. But in any case, come on out, sit through whatever you have to sit through to get up and speak during citizens' time, no matter how long you have to wait. It's very, very important because they've got a totally different impression from who they've been listening to, the pro-project people, that the community is for it.
How many people and businesses are in the lighting district?
816 properties are in the lighting tax district, and they want them to pay $643,000, the matching funds portion.
So that number is accurate in the paper?
That
Yes.
number is.
Yes. Yeah.
They willing to do that?
I think we actually gave that number to them, so.
Yeah.
So,
They also said that there were 19 people that had agreed to the easements. That's not everybody,
I know.
but
and
they're
now
making it look like everybody has agreed to it.
The county and our supervisor has told us over and over again that they have all the easements.
And they don't.
19 was, I thought the number was higher.
22, isn't it?
I thought it was 20-something, I'm not sure.
I know it's 23.
And one note about Thursday, I don't know how many people would actually be coming out to speak about something else. We probably won't have to wait through that many people if there are others who are speaking during citizens' time on the Second Amendment or something else. But the Warren Green building has 2 different overflow rooms. So even if you come in and the main meeting room chambers are full, the deputies that are out there are super helpful, and if you let them know, I want to speak during citizens' time, even if there's not a seat for you in there, they'll arrange it. They'll make sure that you don't miss it. They're very helpful.
And again, somebody who goes up can say, hey, well, it's here, and then, so I think that was.
Right,
that was
now
a
the
good
difficult thing
suggestion.
is if you're in the overflow room, you won't be able to visibly stand up. But if you connect with us, that 3400 is a cell phone, 540-360-3400. You can text us, you can connect with us there, and we'll make sure that we can, work you in there because every single person is important. It's really the chance to prove that, no, the Marshall community doesn't want it.
Yeah, I think for a long time they've thought it was only you two that opposed it. And that's not the case, but you're the two that have stuck in there and gone to these meetings. And I, number one,
So
appreciate it.
thank you for all the research.
Thank you.
From a technical point, I'll point out that people speak during citizens' time in the order that they sign up in advance. So if you get there early, A, you get a spot in the main room, and B, you'll get to speak first.
Oh, we never knew.
We didn't
There's a
do
place
that
to sign
when
up.
I
Where's
went.
the place
Well,
to
it
sign
depends
up?
on the number of people who show up. When they have a large crowd showing up, they typically have a
Yes.
sign-up sheet.
They did do that for the Second Amendment rally.
Yeah.
The times that we've spoken during citizens' time, I guess just because it's been
Yeah.
a regular meeting, they haven't forced it.
Right.
And with that rally where there were so many people, we found that they lost a couple of the sign-in sheets. So, because we were up there when we witnessed what had happened, that a couple of those sheets of people were lost. But it's important just to get up there and just say, if you're opposed and you wanna cancel the project, just say, please cancel the project now, immediately.
Can you, just for anybody who's never been to a meeting and never spoken or anything, can you kind of tell them what to expect? They go up to the podium and what the format is. They identify themselves.
So, do you want to speak to? Sure. When you go into the Warren Green building, there is like an agenda for the night and a handout about the protocol for citizens' time. But you go up to the microphone and you have all the lovely supervisors in front of you. They ask you to state your name and your address. And
Magisterial district.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
This is magisterial district.
Okay, yes. Which is important if people want to speak about it and they're not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't want somebody from, another district to talk.
Right. Is it helpful to state that we're in the lighting district?
It is super helpful because they're trying to say that the people, it's Hume, it's, somewhere else, but if you are in the lighting tax district or even the service district, please state that. If it's lighting tax, it's gold. Because you guys feel, so many people have said that you felt like you're taxed without representation. You didn't know about this, you didn't want it, they won't listen to you, so you need to say, I am in the lighting tax district.
Or if you're renting space there,
Yeah,
maybe you're not the property owner, but you have a business, you're renting space and you're on Main Street.
Your rent will still go up.
Well, I know that, but it's important to identify that you have a business on Main Street, then you'll be directly impacted by this.
And you really don't have to say either one, you can just simply say you're affected by this, the lighting district and the tax.
Yeah, they definitely want to know that one supervisor specifically said he wants to know people from the lighting tax district, I think it was Chris Butler. Lighting tax district and service district is gonna make the most difference to him. But this thing is steamrolling through unless we come out and make a huge show on Thursday. This thing's steamrolling through. And what, we've got to stop it, in my opinion. It's hugely destructive to our town.
And then once you finish speaking, you go over and sign in. They have a little paper, you go over and sign in, and then you can go have a seat.
Or leave.
Or leave.
Whatever, and you can watch it on TV. I mean, there's the grant is the video of it. So you can watch it live, and then they will have it up afterwards as a record in it, with usually within 2 to 5 days, they have it up online. But it's really important to be clear, because if you're not clear, we have found it ends up showing that you're for what the county's for.
You have to say, I am in opposition.
Yes, please, and ask them, please cancel the project now. That's why the stickers are like that. And we found out from, we got a letter from, email back from Paul McCullough, that they can amend the agenda. Any supervisors can amend the agenda at any time.
To add an addition, because I asked about if they could do a resolution to vote on. So he said yes. It just doesn't typically happen. For example, this Thursday, it would be unlikely that a supervisor would move to add a resolution to cancel it that night, just because there would have been no notice for it. So I guess our goal is in April, if we have a strong showing Thursday, so that they can put the resolution on in April and vote to cancel.
We can ask for it on Thursday, but if not, by at very least by the April board meeting, because the longer they drag this out, the worse it is for us, the more our dollars are spent. Some people have said, well, can this be salvaged? Can this be salvaged somehow? We have talked with VDOT, the Commonwealth Transportation Board Rep, Allison DeTunk, who is for our region and has been for a number of years. And there is no way this can be salvaged without the objectionable aspects that we don't like. There's this money, this grant money, and everything else is for this kind of project. You don't like the trees, you don't like the narrowing, oh well, that's the way it is. So the time, that ship has sailed many years back from whatever the negotiations were with the arrangements were with the applications.
Is Chris Ford?
He's
pretty much
it
Ford?
It certainly appears
to be Ford.
The
Who is that?
newspapers, I think the
Chris
newspaper
Butler.
was accurate when he said that, when it said that Chris Holder's going to recuse himself. So that leaves 4. And Chris Butler, Chris Granger, and Mary Lee have stated that they have no plans to cancel the project. So it certainly sounds like it. So we've got to come out and we've got to change their minds.
Yeah, we do.
What we
That's
have
the
to do is
format.
just change one mind,
That's true,
because
because,
of the 2 to 2, it doesn't pass.
right. if
Well,
it's-
Chris used to be the head of it, he was the chairman,
Right,
Last year.
but, last year, but, yeah.
right.
Mary Lee
So,
now.
We
Mary
mentioned
Lee
that
is
the
now.
street was gonna get 2 feet narrower. Do we have any bus drivers that drive on there that could speak to what it's like trying to negotiate?
Honey, there's a lot of people drive on Main Street every day
Right.
that could vouch.
Well,
For
my
Main
car got
Street?
sideswiped on Main Street. a couple
I know
days
you
ago.
said you did.
But yeah, and I see people blowing through the school
Oh.
buses all the time. It's dangerous enough really picking up
If
children.
somebody sat there
Yeah.
every day of the week, they could find something wrong with anything they're proposing on Main Street.
I just thought if we had a bus driver that could say, I drive on there and I think it would be less safe and I'm worried about my kids, that might resonate in a way that the other things that we're talking about, tax dollars are going, that might be something to add to this. So,
Yeah, I would just like to say that Amanda and I both own the whole ox. We've had 2 of our employees have their cars totaled on Main Street from being hit. So if the streets total, completely totaled. So
Yeah, mine was totaled.
so if the streets are actually closed in by 2 feet, I can't imagine. Do they have any plans for being able to actually curb speed through the town?
Although they think it'll automatically make people slow down.
By having a
That's what they
change,
told us.
it's- well, it's not gonna automatically. And
Okay.
I also pulled a woman out from underneath a car in November of our first year who got hit at the post
I
office
saw that.
because there's no crosswalks.
Right.
So all the delay that's happening is just causing more and more, safety issues. And I don't see how putting trees and bigger sidewalks is gonna make it a safer and more easy town. And not only that, we won't be able to get deliveries and our trash service will get canceled because they won't be able to get in, and as soon as the truck won't be able to make the turn, they'll just say, hey, sorry, we won't pick up your trash
And we
anymore.
understand Joe's next
So-
to you needs delivery trucks too.
Right, so as far as sanitation goes, what am I gonna do? Just drive my trash for, however many people we service to the
It's
dump every
hard to
day?
get
Makes
in
no
y'all's
sense.
building now.
It is.
It
I
is,
know
and
what
you have
you're
large trucks
talking
that go
about,
in and out,
yes.
it's already hard enough that they can't make
Yes.
a 90-degree bend if you shorten it by, 2 feet or 4, is it only gonna be 2 feet in total?
2 feet.
In total.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. What's that? I will come and talk, I'll come and talk Thursday.
And-
I haven't seen too many pros for it that I'm super for. It's already hard enough to actually function as a
Right.
business in Marshall. We're not seeing the influx of people that everybody sort of promised us that we'd be there. I mean, we've made it for 4 years, cruising on 5 now. And we got a good solid business and we're very happy.
We don't have to leave town.
And we don't have to leave town.
We don't
And
want
we
you
do
to-
have the luxury that our lease is up in September, and if things got bad, we could pull out and leave Marshall and move to
Yeah, but there's
Middleburg
some
and
of us
still
who own that
continue.
property, and we can't just,
What's that?
some of us own it.
That's
I
true.
own my
Yeah, no,
property.
that's true. But we don't want to. We've based our business there, and we want to stay, and we have a great business, and we see that the town is blooming and is doing really well. But it's already hard enough. You can see a lot of businesses that are coming and going. How long is the project going to take?
And some people, someone who retired from VDOT said this would take probably 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And someone
I
told
mean, that's it. We're
I
done.
know.
That's
I know.
the end.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I
Yeah, we
watched.
do have it done.
That's until they hit rock, that's a conservative
It's
estimate.
sad.
Right,
It's
that's
just-
exactly,
impossible.
like Duke says, that's a conservative estimate, wait until they hit.
But they'll tell you, the article says, 11 months or 12 months,
That's too long to put a burden on small
Right.
business. I lived in Pittsburgh and it was this beautiful restaurant that had been open 18 years and it was one of the most famous places in all of Pittsburgh. They did road construction on the front for 18 months. He was closed by the end of it. People just couldn't get to it and they didn't want to. They didn't want to be burdened.
That's
I mean,
what I keep saying.
we are a society of convenience. And if that convenience is taken away from Marshall, then what do you have left?
Right.
And then
This-
people go
Why
other places and they forget about you.
We
they move
treasure
on.
our
It's-
businesses, we treasure you guys, we treasure all of our businesses and our residents. There is no way to impose, there's no reason why we need to impose this tax, which can always be ratcheted up. They say, oh, it's
And it
only a
will be.
little bit,
That's
but you
right.
know what, they're gonna ratchet it up, you know they're gonna hit rock, and all this other stuff. It's a wasteful bait and switch money pit, because it's a bait and switch from what it was proposed to be, purported to be. And it's a money pit, because once these contracts are awarded and then they start,
That's
guess
it.
what? That signs us up on the hook, a blank check for God only knows how much this is gonna cost. So we have so many Main Street businesses that have also been opposed to it. I'm so glad that you guys are here, and I hope every single one of you bring out as many people as you can this Thursday, because they have they've not been believing us at all. They have not been believing us. And they think, we know that we have the facts. We had to go because the county was so hard to get information from and kept changing the information back and forth. And it was completely unreliable in so many cases that we had to go directly to VDOT, to our state-appointed Commonwealth Transportation Board rep, who has been very straight up. There are only 9 in the entire state, and she's out of Albemarle. She's been very straight up with us. And we walked, so these guys that we're walking the Main Street with, they know they have to answer to her if they tell us something wrong. So, you know, we're hearing back from our county board of supervisors level that, oh, that's wrong information. Oh, VDOT's real. No, we got it straight from the horse's mouth. It's VDOT's responsibility to repair these sidewalks. We have been denied this for years. We have been denied this for years because this project has been coming for 12 years. And the county has told us, they've asked VDOT to hold off. Our town could look even better than it does right now. Also, these crosswalks that they want to put in, we've got stuff right here about Middleburg, and you notice they're not mentioning Middleburg to us because we're too close. We can go over and see for ourselves what it's like. There are problems 3 years out that they still have with Middleburg's crosswalks. So what we say is, look, let VDOT come in, repave Main Street. They will retrofit, make handicap accessible with the little bubble ramps, all of the intersections. We can then, you know, on our own, improve that grassy area. Who doesn't like green? Let's take care of it. Nobody's been putting money into it or effort into it, even volunteer effort, because we're told it's all gonna get torn up. Why remove green? Green is good. Why replace it with bricks? Bricks would go in there and it's a trip hazard. But, so once VDOT repaves, they come in and repaint our crosswalks at the 2 intersections. Now, they said the post office does not meet the demand for them to do a crosswalk, but
That's not true at all.
they said they've monitored it, but if we want, and for a minimal cost, we don't need to be on the hook for millions of dollars for this boondoggle project that doesn't benefit us. For a minimal cost, we could pay for that. Or get the county, I mean, the county's collecting the special lighting tax. You know, look, basically, we could, for a fraction of the cost, little to no cost, we could get a crosswalk painted there. If we wanted to pay for it, we submitted it to VDOT and it met their requirements, we could do that. We don't need this project to do that. We don't need it to make it handicap accessible. We're gonna lose approximately 20 parking spaces. It's going to make it difficult for rescue vehicles, all kinds of things to.
Yeah. And a note, Aaron Kozinecki, who's the project manager and director of Office of Management and Budget, explained to us this project, all this money, doesn't even put a crosswalk at the post office where it's needed most.
It's just really important that Derek is there. If you came to the meetings before, because you're ground zero, you're right in the middle of this thing. Your business is gonna be the most. I'll bet anything. I'm sorry to say this, but I'll bet anything. If this construction starts, there's no way you guys can survive. There is no way.
I disagree with you on that.
That's not what we're here today. That's not what we're here today.
I'm saying any business, I'm saying like any business, any 7-Eleven, any business, there's no way. The way they're gonna set this thing up.
It's gonna be hard.
It's gonna be so
we've
difficult.
already put in logistics for delivery system and to be able to scale down if we need to continue to operate. So we're already thinking ahead.
But this is a 3-year project. It's gonna take 3 years to do this thing. They're gonna stretch this thing out.
No,
across the street can be protected because they can go from the back.
You're
No one's
talking
gonna last,
to
no one's gonna last 3 years on a small business on the street with that.
That's gonna kill all of us. That's what we're trying to fight for all these years.
And also, I mean, not to be like, Debbie Downer, but we're sliding into very strange economical times.
It's very
right
strange.
now
It's
anyway.
been very strange.
Already we're seeing very strange numbers in our business in the last week that just don't match any, projections we had. And they're so high, they're completely unusual because people coming in buying everything on the shelves. So we have no idea what that even means in the next month, let alone being able to survive a street project. No idea whatsoever.
We talked to the county attorney, we met with him a couple weeks ago, and we were asking about this special lighting tax district, the tax rate for the businesses and residents. And the resolution that was done on Valentine's Day, I guess you don't have any people show up for Valentine's Day, but the county board of supervisors did Valentine's Day of 2013 when they passed this increase, which kicks in, none of this debt and none of this increase kicks in if we can cancel the project.
Yeah.
This is just, it's a no-brainer to cancel it and go ahead with these low-cost or no-cost things, especially when we're talking about the coronavirus. Because 2 weeks ago, when it wasn't even as much in the, dominating the news as it is today, the county, when we were asking the county attorney about this, he said, well, for example, he said the board of supervisors can increase, decrease, or eliminate a tax altogether anytime they want. They can do that. He said, for example, if the coronavirus hits and takes out a portion of the Marshall area population, then they're likely going to have to increase the taxes on the rest of the people and businesses to support that. Well, if we're going into a time like that, what the heck are we doing? Risking that.
The
It's
county's
for an
not gonna do
optional
that, the
project.
state is.
What's that?
The state and the president's gonna take care of the money we need.
Yeah.
He's already said he's gonna support any county or town that
The
needs
general
extra
contractor
money.
that did the general harvest, when they were redoing the building, they'd come by in the morning to get breakfast sandwich, of course, and coffee. And I was asking, why were you guys building the door on the back? It's on the front. He goes, because when they start redoing Main Street. So Sandy learned, they all knew. They all knew this.
We were
This is how
partners
crazy
with
this thing is.
Peter Schwartz for a very long time. He's no longer our partner, but we've known it was coming. We had heard it was coming even before we actually set foot there, but we were never really super on board with it because we couldn't really, if you're a new business and you're trying to get a foothold in the community, being hampered with a project like that, it only just sets you back. There's a lot of things that Marshall can do to attract businesses and people, and we're getting the people there. I'm not sure how sidewalks and trees are all of a sudden gonna make Marshall super busy.
Nope.
We're already busy and we're already having trouble handling the influx of people in town, and we're not talking about how we handle that influx. So we've never really been super on board with the project because I've never really understood what benefits the business.
And if you ask them what the benefits are,
They don't really know. They're like, oh, it's prettier, people are gonna come, and the utilities are underground.
Yeah.
And we have fewer
just
parking
very-
spots.
And we have, in which we don't have enough parking spots currently anyway.
This is very important you come Thursday and say what you said tonight. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
We also have, if you're against it, we really ask, please, every individual 18 and over sign this form letter, because this is more substantive even than a petition. Because you put in here your name, your address, and check all that apply. Any or all. I live, have a business, own property, and then check all that applies. Lighting tax, service district, magisterial district, Fauquier County. If you're in the lighting tax district, you're also in the service district, which is also in the magisterial district, which is also in Fauquier County. So you check any of those that apply and the reasons. And we found this is helpful from doing a FOIA. They used form letters to pass certain things with this project years ago. This is more detailed. So they can't really say, oh, these people, it's just a petition, they don't really know. This is what they said about opposition to it before. These people really didn't know what they were signing. It wasn't specific, it just said this, and they don't know it's a good thing. This actually has reasons, and it narrows down where you're from. And so we really encourage you to, if you want to sign these, and then we need them back, because we're gonna keep a record of all of them. We've got a number of them already, and we're gonna hand them in on Thursday. We went door to door in the lighting tax district We only had just a couple of hours on Sunday. We could not find one person who supported this project. We got 15 signatures. 15 of these form letters were signed in just the little time we were able, just one block, maybe one half of one street. We got 15, and then we ran out of time. We left these with a lady. She told us she's gotten 10 more since we were there. So we really need to make this strong show, and really appreciate, like, you know, you guys are all good people. I love the people in Marshall and people at Fauquier, the best people in the world, you know, and it's time that we, you know, bond together and say, look, you know, you gotta listen to the people. This is a representative government, and we've taken so much flack because we've been getting the word out to people, and we've been under incredible attack, slanderous things said about us, everything else, but we're not stopping. And we're not stopping not because we're rich real estate developers or investors, but because we care about our community, and there's a principle here. We're in the United States of America. We shouldn't be, you know, it shouldn't be like people are afraid to speak up. So many people have told us they're afraid to speak up of intimidation, retaliation. We certainly have gotten intimidation and retaliation. It shouldn't be that way. And so, you know what we're saying now? Time's up. We're in America. We're not in a third world country. We're not in a banana republic. It's time to listen to the people. This is our town, and this has got to stop.
Also, somebody was asking me about the lines, the electrical lines, are they gonna be buried?
Mary Lee said both ways. Last time we met with her, she said both. They're working to have it underground, bidding out undergrounding and bidding it not. If they do a rock clause, then that's gonna be above and beyond the budget. So the way I see it, seems like it's possible that these bids could come in at or below, at or under budget if there's a rock clause, because then however many millions of dollars it takes, God knows what, it could be a bottomless pit. That's separated out, and contractors have said they love rock clauses because they make so much money with them. Well, that's signing us up and indebting us up with a blank check.
I had two comments on that. One, because of my 200-plus-year-old home is right there. There will be cracks in the lath and the plaster and the way that my house is built, as are many on Main Street, will be affected by that. Who will be held liable for damage to my home if this does get pushed through? Who's gonna pay for damages done by it?
Well,
that's my first question.
Good question to mention.
Some people,
It's a good thing to say.
Some people have mentioned that if people are, if properties become distressed, then people may want, the property may flip, and then it would be easy to pick it up at a cheaper price because it's damaged. Now, the way, I could be wrong, but the way I understand with the Marshall Code is that because it's a historic, because of what happened with the Marshall Code, if a building has to be torn down, it can be built out, still be considered in the historic area for, I don't know, whatever kind of benefit that may bring the investor, I'm not sure. But it could be really maxed out of square footage, which, you know, square footage rents, you know, brings in a lot more rent the bigger the square footage and the less requirement for parking. So there are all kinds of things that are very concerning. We don't want to see anybody's property damaged. We don't want to see anybody at risk of losing businesses or feeling like they need to move because of the problems with this project. You know, so.
And my second comment I was gonna make is that there is no rock clause as is currently, is my understanding.
With the last, when the last one went out, right, it did not go out with a rock clause. And so for the contractor's portion, the budget was approximately, county's budget's approximately $3.5 million. There were only two, and everyone who wanted to bid was mandatory pre-bid meeting. So if there was no contractor there, they couldn't bid on it. There were a lot of contractors there, but only two contractors chose to bid on it. And that bid came in December. We were in for the bid opening, and those two were Rising Sun out of Orlean, Hume area, and Shirley Construction, which is a big, you know, they know what they're doing, big construction company, but they're no dummies. So for $3.5 million budget, Rising Sun came in at approximately $6.5 million, and Shirley Construction came in at $8.5 million approximately. So that shows you right off the bat what they're anticipating they might run into rock-wise. So, yeah. So,
You said you went to the bid opening?
yes.
Was there a proposal presented to these contractors, what they had to bid and present?
Yes.
My question is gonna be to these business places like mine, what's gonna happen if they do wanna bury those lines when the power outage comes? Because it's gonna be several different times, quite a few times, in order to make hookups or get the lines dropped down and buried. How many hours each day is people gonna be without power? And can they run a business? I can't. My business has to have power all the time for my ice cream machine.
Yeah.
If it goes out, I have to throw that mix away.
They asked Erin Kozanecki, who is the county's project manager and also the head of the county's Office of Management and Budget. And her husband, Don Kozanecki, is the county's construction manager. So those two with Sue Monaco were there at the pre-bid meeting. And they were asked that question, and basically the answer was, we don't anticipate any power outages. There's not gonna be any power outages. Because they were
You go to the
asking,
meeting Thursday night and tell them all about that.
is the contractor responsible
That's money out of
for
your
it?
pocket. That's money out of your pocket.
There was someone from, posed this question about the power. He says, when you bury three-phase, when you bury three-phase power and one phase goes out, you have to pull all the wire out, so you're down double time.
So did y'all hear that?
I'm glad y'all heard that.
He said that he understands when the power goes out, you're talking to someone?
Well, three-phase, they gotta pull all the wire out to reestablish it. Because if one line burns out, they gotta take the whole thing out.
And also, we understand from the county, this is what we understand, that it falls on the businesses to pay whatever it costs to connect once they do this.
So we'd have to change our power to three-phase once, is that what you're saying?
Would they have to change their power to three-phase?
No.
Just
We don't have,
three-phase.
I don't think we even have three-phase coming through anymore.
We don't.
We've been trying to get three-phase forever.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
don't
say
think we have.
If they're gonna replace it with three-phase, that the guy was saying, you have to pull it all out of it as a phase.
Wow, so if they do replace it with three-phase, they have to pull everything out?
If it burns out, they have to grab the whole thing and pull it out, is my understanding.
And then if they do, like a question, if we do it for a block and everything else is aerial,
Change all kinds of equipment.
I don't think any of the benefits that you would have with it would apply, because it's not running.
Right, and has anybody not signed one of these that has to sign? And that just turned them into
I don't know whether or not
Please stand for pledge of allegiance.
Does anyone know how to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And justice for us.
Yeah. See everyone Thursday.
Yes.